Hey everybody, welcome to No Plan, No Problem, a weekly D&D advice podcast where two dungeon masters take a deep dive into different topics to explore the depths and try and come up with 3 actionable tips for you to use in your next game. I'm your dungeon master Anto.
And I'm an Animorph, Matthew Perkins.
You can find my stuff over at icarus-games.co.uk.
And you can find my stuff over at matthewperkins.net. Anto, what are we talking about today?
So today we're talking about Druids, one of the core classes available in the game. They're all about their connection to nature. They have access to some natural magic. They can do things like cast a few spells, and their biggest class feature is probably their wild shape. They can assume the form of different animals in combat. So Matt, on our quest to find some tips on Druids today, who is the first adventurer helping us on our way?
You're going to be so surprised. We've got a very famous adventurer helping us with this first tip. It's our boy, Bilbo Baggins _. Bilbo Baggins _, which is legally distinct from Bilbo Baggins. So he's from RD&D over on Reddit, and he says, "Oh my god, it's not Bilbo Baggins.
Not Bilbo Baggins.
It's Brodo Baggins." It's Brodo Baggins.
I didn't want to disrupt your flow, but I was like,
"Oh my god, that's so good." Okay, wait, no, we keep going. This is the podcast.
Yeah.
So Brodo Baggins _ says, "I was just curious about the ways that all of you have role-played druids outside of the stereotypical hippie, tree-hugging hermit. I like the idea of wild shaping, which is transforming into animals. I like the idea of wild shaping, but I don't feel like playing a Tarzan meets Smokey the Bear character," says Brodo, not Bilbo, Baggins _ Anto, what kind of ways outside of the norm do you think you could role-play a druid?
So, firstly, I just want to say that Tarzan meets Smokey the Bear would be amazing, and I resent the implication that that's a negative thing. But I think that there's a lot of potential for a druid that isn't just a hippie tree hugger kind of archetype. And the way I play druids is to really lean into that nature versus civilization aspect. So when I break down kind of what makes the classes distinct, to me, a druid protects nature from the expanse of civilization, and a ranger protects civilization from the expanse of nature. I see them as kind of two sides of the same coin, almost.
Holy crap, that's so cool.
So in terms of role-playing them as to not be a hippie, they're not protecting nature because, you know, they're tree-hugging friends and they're all about peace and love. They're protecting nature because nature is under active threat from civilization, whatever form that may take.
Can I challenge that a little bit?
Please do.
And I do love the idea of like the domain of druids versus the domain of rangers and the way they overlap. That's a cool dynamic. But I don't think that druids, this is going to sound stupid. I don't think that druids necessarily have to have anything to do with nature. You know what I mean?
Ooh.
Like just because they have natural related powers doesn't mean that they owe nature anything.
Right, okay.
Like here's what I'm thinking, and I'm finding my path along the way here. How about like a druid that is kind of icy in nature? Is Elsa a druid? Does she have any beholden, like, does she have any allegiance to nature?
I wouldn't say Elsa is a druid, because from my definition of druid, the druid specifically has that natural tie, whereas Elsa is just kind of running away from everything because she doesn't want to hurt everyone.
Oh, dude, okay, this is a fight now. We are in a fight. Prepare ye self. Because Elsa is absolutely a druid. Elsa's a druid. Okay, she does ice powers like a druid. Does she have animal? She's a Disney princess, so she has animal stuff going on like a druid.
I mean, she makes a snowman come to life, I suppose.
Oh my god, Olaf. You abomination. But Elsa's definitely a druid, but she doesn't fit your criteria of caring about nature. I think a druid is just someone that has natural powers, naturalistic powers, naked powers.
Naked power. I mean, potentially, I'd be interested to know why you would think that Elsa is a druid and not like a sorcerer. Because sorcerers get their power from their blood and not from book learning.
Yeah.
So why would Elsa be a druid and not a sorcerer?
Well, here's the thing. Druids and sorcerers are quite similar in the sense that they're getting their powers intrinsically. Like, the druid doesn't have to make a pact with anything. The druid doesn't have to, like, take a massive oath or anything, does it? Like a paladin. The main thing, I guess, is just that all of Elsa's abilities are ice themed. All about, I can see you on the screen over there reading the book, and you're about to bloody lecture me about something. Oh no. Get a load of the rules lawyer over here.
I'm just like the focus on ice is more kind of elemental magic, and I don't think that druids are specifically focused on elemental magic, are they? They're just natural magic and not necessarily elemental.
Ice castle. She heralds in the age of ice. She's the bloody Night King.
But if we flip through the book for a moment and look,
put the book down.
And we look at what the druid gets. They get Druidic, their secret language, at first level, which Elsa doesn't get. They get spellcasting, which Elsa does get. But
she got it.
And then once they get to level 2, I think, they get wild shape. Like, Druidic and wild shape are probably the two cornerstones of being a druid, and Elsa doesn't have either of them.
I know we've done, 6, 7, 8 episodes by now, but it's over. This is the last episode of No Plan, No Problem. And I've had a really good time. Can we just do a clips episode where we show all the great memories that we've had? I don't even care what the question is anymore. What was it?
We've gone so far off the reservation with this Elsa argument.
Listen, Brodo Baggins _, I know you wanted your question answered, but it's not going to happen.
I think the answer is clearly just play your druid as Elsa. Because if you want to play your druid differently, don't play them as a druid, play them as Elsa.
Well, you think that you really think that a druid has to be someone that is invested in nature. You think that is a core tenet of druidic powers, correct?
Yeah, I do, yes.
I really think that if you have a character and you want to tell a story with that character, it doesn't matter what class they are.
No.
Right?
I agree with that.
The flavor of a class is just describing the way that their power manifests, the way that they interact with the world, and the way that they behave in combat. Mm-hmm. I picture a class more as a style.
Yeah.
But, we're not going to get a tip from this, are we?
But no, I think the tip would be you can play outside of stereotype. So if you want to play a druid that isn't super focused on nature, you could play a druid that has kind of even been given their powers by nature or stumbled upon their power, that they have this natural power, but they're not using it to further nature. They have the power, but they're not using it for the stereotypical goal. And they've taken the power of nature and they're running with it and doing their own thing. And they might technically be a druid, but they don't care that they're a druid.
Can I condense the tip for you here and say that the tip is to challenge convention in ways that interest you as far as character and class stereotypes go?
Absolutely.
That was a hot mess. Hey, let's roll for promotion.
Let's do this thing. Okay, so as a small, fledgling new podcast, we still don't have any of those big donor sponsors, so we are shouting out all our friends. And today, I want to shout out Dawn and Ryan over at Roll for Initiative on YouTube. They have a YouTube channel dedicated to RPGs and tabletop games, minis, all sorts of good stuff. They're really good people, and they make excellent content. You should absolutely go and give them a watch.
If you want to support us over at No Plan, No Problem, the best way you can do it is by heading over to the iTunes store, the Apple Podcast thing, and leaving that 5-star review. Give us those reviews, those likes, those follows on every podcast platform imaginable, even if you have to code your own and release it and make it a success. I believe in your startup, and I believe that you can like this podcast, please. We also have a Patreon out there, so check us out on Patreon for some behind-the-scenes content. Every single time we record, we also record a special pre-show where we warm up and tell the worst stories imaginable. And if you want to see that kind of stuff, you got to be a patron. Hey, Anto.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be the very best, like no one ever was. Dun, 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 dun. To test them is my real something. To train them is my cause.
I'm going to stop you there before we get striked for legal purposes, but do continue. What's our segment?
It's Druids, yeah. We're going to do stuff to steal today. So Stuff to Steal is where we look at some other kind of media franchise and try and glean some actionable advice from it. And today, we're going to be looking at Digimon. I mean, Pokemon. Pokemon is a big Japanese old cartoon. It's about a 10-year-old boy that goes around the world beating up animals and becoming their friends somehow. The most charismatic, animal-abusing little boy that you can imagine. His name's Ash Ketchum. He loves them, he catches them, he's a Pokemon master. So I want to steal some element of this and import it into D&D. And I don't necessarily know what it is. What do you know about Pokemon? What's your memories and impressions of it?
So I distinctly remember thinking that the premise is somewhat. I struggle with the premise because, like you say, it is making all these animals fight with each other, which is a weird message for a kids show. But I do think that it would be an interesting backdrop for a Druid's kind of motivation to say, I want to go out in the world and I want to find as many creatures as I can to assume the form of. I think that gives a strong motivation for them to go and quest and adventure, and it is a natural way for them to say yes to pretty much anything the DM throws at them. The DM says, right, do you want to go across the world to a different part of the world? The Druid can go, yes, there will be animals there that I can turn into that I've never seen before. I'm up for it.
Like mechanics wise, so Druids, they can wild shape from second level into any other beast, any creature that has the beast category. And I think like the toughest creature that has a beast is a T-Rex, but that's too powerful for a Druid to be able to turn into. Because like 8th level, that's when they can transform into CR level like 1 creatures. And then before that, they're doing CR a half and CR a quarter, etc., etc., etc. So there is a cap to the level of beast they can turn into. But like, if this person's going to be a beast master, legally distinct from a beast master, like the ranger,
there's a space in there that you can't hear.
I think I would actually even allow like an exception for this player if they said, look, my character wants to see and categorize every beast in D&D, just like Charles Darwin meets Ash Ketchum. Then I think I'd say, yeah, if you manage to meet and be able to see 20 exotic animals, and I will let you wild shape into a CR2 creature. And if you meet and like be able to wild shape into 30 beasts or whatever, or some arbitrary number, I'll let you transform into a CR3 creature.
Because here's the thing, like looking over the rules for wild shape, beast shape, wild shape, looking over the rules for wild shape, you take on the hit points and the hit die of the creature you're turning into. So if you turn into a beast in combat, I can't see a situation where that's a beneficial thing most of the time, because at level 8, you're almost certainly going to suddenly have fewer hit points than you should do.
There is a situation in Pokemon games where like the way the combat initiative kind of works in Pokemon, you can throw out a Pokemon in front of you to kind of take a big hit that you know is coming, while you don't get them to do anything. Instead, you just let them take the hit. They faint, because nobody dies in Pokemon. Nobody dies. They take the hit and they faint, and in the background, you're like healing your actual ringers, your actual good Pokemon. That's what people use Druid shapes for, because the hit points of the animal you turn into are a separate kind of bonus hit points on top of your regular human hit points. So for example, I transform into a wolf, and let's pretend that a wolf has 10 hit points. That means that after I take 10 hit points of damage, I transform back into a human, back at whatever hit points I was before I became a big old doggy wog.
Yeah, you only take the excess damage. So if you had 10 hit points as a dog and you took 11 damage, you'd take 1 damage as a druid.
What's up, guys? Welcome to our math podcast.
Thinking about it now that we're here, I actually kind of don't like wild shape. Like thinking about a druid who's doing the whole Pokemon thing, gotta catch them all, gotta explore the world and find all these beasts to transform into. That is a very role-play based motivation that isn't really going to have any benefit on the mechanics of their character throughout the game, which is unfortunate, because I prefer to be able to marry the two together so that you have a satisfying experience throughout your game rather than just in one aspect. I would definitely be okay with tweaking the wild shape and potentially allowing more powerful CR creatures.
Hey. I got something.
Go.
Pokemon. We're robbing Pokemon. Do you know what Pokemon do?
What do Pokemon... Oh my god, yes. They evolve.
Yeah. They evolve.
Yes!
Okay, so imagine this. Okay, my friends, welcome to the Pokemon Zone. So imagine this. You have a druid that can turn into a wolf. This person has been transformed into a wolf the whole time. They've got experience points and experiences from being a wolf.
Yeah.
And then one day they transform into a wolf and you go, whoa. Not so quick, druid. Don't use that wolf mini. Here, take this dire wolf mini.
Yes.
You've gotten a lot of experience points as a wolf. Your wolf form has leveled up.
I like that.
What do you think of that?
Yeah, I like that. I think that I don't think you could apply it to all of the animals, but the beasts that you can apply it to, I think that would be a really satisfying way to kind of handle some of that progression. And I still don't think it would be terrifically game-breaking.
I actually kind of like the requirement and, the demand that every single animal has another animal that is its clear progression. And it's like, some of them wouldn't make sense. It'd be like, okay, so I was a giant octopus and then I manifested and I evolved and I turned into a giant shark. It's like, yeah, that's what happens. Pokemon rules.
Yep. And then from a shark, you turn into like a plesiosaur, or you start as a snake and you suddenly turn into a T-Rex.
But hey, we got to find a tip about Pokemon. Can it be the evolve thing? Please give me this.
I'm happy to take the evolve thing. The tip being take a leaf out of Pokemon's book and have your wild shapes evolve.
And the best part about that being the tip is the fact that it means we get out of this zone. This is so unproductive. It saves us. Okay, so that's the tip. Evolve. Okay, Anto, we're legally not allowed to leave the podcast until we find a third tip. So what do you got for us?
Our next quest for a tip is coming courtesy of Keen Grod on r/D&D Next over on Reddit. And they ask, why will druids not use metal armor, but they're completely okay with metal weapons? They get a wood shield, but a metal scimitar.
Ooh, they're not okay with metal armor. So is that meant to imply that maybe metal is some kind of perversion of nature? Like maybe that's too civilized to be in their kit?
Because it specifically says armor and shields made of metal that they're not allowed to use. It doesn't say that they can't use anything made of metal. It does specify armor and shields, which now that I'm looking at it and thinking about it, that is really weird.
That's wacky. That's some wacky stuff. What's the bet that is some kind of artifact of an older edition of D&D?
Yeah.
Where even then, it might have made sense back then, but I bet it didn't. I bet if you really analysed it, it probably didn't make sense then either.
I can kind of understand the thought progression, because they'd be like, right, okay, to make these things, you have to go and mine and tear up parts of nature. But that falls short when you're like, oh, I can use a wooden shield, which will have been made from potentially a fallen tree, but there's nothing in my mechanics that says I can't go and chop that tree down.
If you go to join an organization, right, and the organization says, oh, thank you so much for joining. We're so glad to have you here. We do have a dress code. So for one, no casual attire. That's fine. Also, no metal. We don't wear any metal. When someone says that to you, you have joined a cult.
Yes. And a really weird cult that I would expect to be going to some unsavory places if you're not allowed to wear metal. But it is an odd thing for them to not be allowed to use metal in the armor and shields, but to be allowed to use metal in their weaponry, because metal in the weaponry will require just as much destructive for mining and refining as shields and armor. It seems so I can't get my head around it.
I think I found it, because what it is, I bet it's what they did. They ran up against the problem of, look, world building wise, hey, in this world, it's a really high fantasy world called Faerun. You might not have heard of it. So in Faerun, the druids don't want to disrupt nature, right? They don't want to have to wear metal on their bodies because it's mined from the earth. Mother Nature, she goes, oh, give me back my metals. And the druids are like, oh, we're not going to wear it, Mother Nature. Don't worry, we love you. Then the druids go, well, I want to hit something with a weapon.
Yeah.
And they go, ooh, all of the non-metal weapons suck. What can I get? A giant club, a quarterstaff? I'm not doing enough damage. So what they've run into is the impasse between their world-building story that they want to tell about druids and the mechanics that affect druids, which is the actual weapon damage. Do you kind of see that disconnect?
Yeah, definitely. I think that I'm coming to realize that I think that Wizards of the Coast really struggle with nature, because in a conceptual level, because the druid has a lot of weird idiosyncrasies when it comes to them and nature. In a similar way that I think that rangers have some idiosyncrasies when it comes to them and nature, and I think that it might just be that wizards don't know how to convey what they want these naturalistic classes to be. They have the idea in their mind, but they can't kind of convey it.
Okay, I'm going to ask you a really hard-hitting question, and we're going to do this together. So I'm going to count down to 3, from 3. So I'm going to go 3, 2, 1, and then on the next count we answer. And we're going to answer the same question at the same time. And the question is, do you think that druids suck? Okay?
Okay.
I'm going to count down. Here we go. 3, 2, 1,
yes.
No.
Oh,
okay. Well, that didn't go as planned. I don't think they suck. You think they suck?
Yeah, I mean,
why do you think they suck?
The more we're delving into this, the more I'm realizing that I actually really don't like druids. It's been a long time since I've looked at druids. I've not played a druid in 5e. I've played some in previous editions, but I don't have a full memory of them, so I feel like time has given me rose-tinted glasses. But looking through these and discussing these different elements of them, I kind of think they suck. They get a wild shape ability, which is like their cornerstone ability that caps out at a CR1 monster. They just shoehorn can't wear metal. Like, why can't they wear metal? Let them wear metal if they want to wear metal.
Look, I kind of like them though. Like they're such a character-wise. I think that they've got a lot of strong themes in their abilities.
Yes,
and I think that if you're looking to tell a story about a character, then a druid is a good option. But even mechanically, Anto, even divorced from the story, if you look at the mechanics and the numbers, I still think they're pretty good. What we're overlooking about the wild shape ability is that you get it at level 2. Mm-hmm. A lot of other classes get their cool, hey, I'm a paladin, I'm gonna smite you, come on over here. They get all those abilities like level 3 and stuff, right?
Yeah.
So druids get their stuff at level 2. They kind of spike, they get their power spike at different levels, kind of like on the offbeat. So when the other character hitting their stride, the druid falls behind a bit. But when they fall behind a bit, the druid hits their stride. And maybe that's the disconnect here. I think in the context of a full party, a druid does make sense.
Yeah,
does that make sense?
I think that they have a place, and I don't think that everything about them it sucks mechanically or conceptually. I just think that there is a weird disconnect between. I feel like I can almost see what Wizards of the Coast wanted to do with the druid, but I feel like the execution kind of fell short because they immediately came across a load of ifs and buts and tried to mechanically account for them first and then work everything out after that. So they thought, well, we don't want them to wear metal armor for whatever reason. If that is supposed to be kind of tied to their background and kind of the destruction of nature, well, maybe a better way to do it would have been a druid can't wear metal armor or use metal shields that they haven't crafted themselves because they have the respect of the natural world to do it in a sustainable way. And then that gives you, I think that's much more interesting, that they can only wear metal that they themselves have, processed.
I would even expand that a little bit and say maybe they can't wear metal armor that hasn't been blessed via a ritual from a druid. Because what if you go, but I don't want my character to have to be a blacksmith, to have to be a druid and wear metal armor. Mm-hmm. But what if you make that blessing be some kind of story element, some kind of tale that you can tell. It's like, hey guys, this session, the druid found this great chainmail that they want. Then we can do this great little quest where they have to go to some kind of volcanic rock and seal their armor, their metal armor, with this volcanic blessing. And then you get that kind of Lord of the Rings feeling where all of the weapons and all of the armor all have names.
Yeah.
Ooh, I love that energy.
Yeah, that's much more interesting than just, you can't wear metal for reasons.
I think it's important. Okay, I don't think it's important, but I think it's nice that druids, as far as Wizards of the Coast conceive of them, is that they have a code.
Yes.
I think that's kind of interesting. I like that paladins have a code, I like that clerics have a code, and I like that druids have a code as well. I don't like that code means that half of the armor in the world can't be worn by druids.
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Imagine the Mountain Dwarf. The Mountain Dwarf as a race in D&D gets proficiency, I think, in heavy armor. Heavy armor is all metal. And if you're looking at the classic conception of a Mountain Dwarf, then heavy metal armor, chainmail, plate mail, that is their shtick.
Yeah.
If you were playing a Mountain Dwarf Druid, of course you'd want to wear metal armor, but wizards don't want you to wear it. I don't know. That doesn't really sit right with me. So maybe coming up with a workaround to that is maybe that can be our tip. I don't know.
It's a weird position where I think that some of what I consider to be 5th edition's wider flaws, where it gives you kind of vague rules or ideas, but then never expands on them. So you run into weird, like, idiosyncrasies and weird little things that don't make sense. So with the Druid and their armor specifically, when I look at that, the first thing I think is, if I am a new player looking at that, I think, oh, well, there must be some armors out there that aren't metal. And, you know, there must be a progression for me to be able to go, right, I can get really good armor that isn't metal. You know, I might get bone armor or hide armor that's reinforced or whatever it is. But then you go to the book and all the best armors are metal. So I think that from a Dungeon Master's perspective, I would want to do something to contextualize that rule. So either say, right, okay, you can wear metal if you yourself have kind of crafted it. You can wear metal if you have had it blessed in a natural ritual. Or I'm going to give you some non-metal armor options that will be available to you. They might be pricier because they're more rare, because metal is the most common, or whatever needs to happen to kind of make it balanced. But I'm going to give you the option that explains why that rule is included.
Yeah, I actually love that workaround a lot, because the idea of just saying, yeah, here's a non-metal equivalent of, I don't know, plate mail, right? And it's made out of bone. Cool. Enjoy.
Yeah.
Like that's so simple.
Yeah. You know, and it's easy enough to kind of balance that, because people can be like, oh, well, you know, I can just get some bone and slap it together. Well, you can have requisites that only certain smiths can make it and all those kinds of things. Whatever you need to do to make it fit in kind of a party balance-wise, but it then further contextualizes the Druid's background.
I've finally finished my mission to make this great set of armor, crafted from the bones of my enemies. Hey, check out Bone Boy over here. I guess that's the tip. Find workarounds to get around the restrictions for Druids that you don't enjoy. Anto, sum us up, my dude.
So, tip number 1 was to challenge convention and stereotype when role-playing a Druid. You don't have to go full-on nature level. You can buck the trend. Tip number 2 was to have your wild-shaped forms evolve into more powerful creatures to give a little bit of extra spice at higher levels.
Gotta catch them all.
And tip 3 was to contextualize the Druid's shortcomings or their restrictions to make it make sense in your world.
Context, baby.
I think that's it. Did we do a podcast?
We did do the podcast. Can I just point out how often we disagreed this episode? Because it was, I don't like it when we fight.
I mean,
I don't like it.
We might be half a world away, but I was genuinely worried for a moment. We were each going to board tiny little dirigible boats, sail across the oceans, meet in the middle of the ocean, and have a fight to the death. Like, it was tough going.
I've got anxiety. Would have had a panic attack halfway there. But can we agree about something? Let's find something we can agree about just quickly, just to mend this bridge.
Okay. Really.
Anyway, so I've been Matthew Perkins. You can find all my stuff over at matthewperkins.net.
And I've been Anto, and you can find my stuff at icarus-games.co.uk.
So this song playing us out is called All Together by a band called House Hats. Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to subscribe on everything that you can and follow. This has been No Plan, No Problem.
Hey, we're right. Hey, all together.